All right, fibermaxing. Have you heard of it? And let's talk about what it is and why people are doing it and dive into what we think about it. So, when was the first time you heard about fibermaxing?
I honestly don't know. It was definitely this year. Early
Yeah,
this year?
earlier this year? Okay. You're probably on top of the TikTok trends than
Or
me.
was it like
It was the summer.
June?
Mm.
Yeah. So, like, when I first heard about it, I was like, "What? How do you define fibermaxing?"
Right.
Really? Because some people may be doing higher fiber and not really be aware of it, and then there's maybe it's the intention behind it too, going really hard on in one area.
Yeah. It sounds like there's not a clear definition, right? Like it's just, it could be actually meeting your fiber needs or going above.
That's
Do I
true.
have that right? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's just another extreme. It's the extreme intention behind every sort of diet trend generally falls into some sort of extreme of some kind. And this time it's fiber, which on the one hand, I was like, finally, something at least remotely good. These people are trying to get more fiber. That's good. But I could definitely see too how it can go awry if you're going hard into any particular area.
Yeah, it made me question too, if you're trying to increase your fiber, are they doing it with just food sources alone, or are they doing it with supplements, or
Oh yeah.
where's the fiber coming from? That would be important.
Yeah, because it's certainly harder if you're doing it with food than it is to do it with a fiber supplement because fiber supplements are fairly easy to get high amounts of if you're, intentionally doing it.
And probably going to have some side effects. And people are probably wondering why they're bloated and gassy.
Yeah, definitely. There can be some pretty hard side effects. And, definitely some dangers when it comes to, I guess, like how quickly you do it and also depending on the person doing it too. Like if you're somebody who's at risk of maybe you don't want to increase too fast or you have a history of strictures or obstruction. I mean, that could certainly be an issue with IBD.
Yep, for sure.
But Danielle, how have you seen anyone doing it online? Or like how did you hear about it and what were you thinking through?
Well, I feel like the first time I heard it was maybe actually from a dietitian. Now, I don't know who coined the term, but I think I first heard it from a dietitian and how they were excited, much like I am, not going to lie, to hear about this fiber maxing because, of course, we've seen the, I guess, like protein maxing, if you will, for the last couple years. And now fiber gets to shine in this. So I believe I saw it from a dietitian and she was talking about how, like, yeah, we do want to have fiber in our day because it's so beneficial for our overall health. But we can have, a good balance of everything. We don't have to maximize and be intense with absolutely everything that we do. So I could get on board with that sentiment as well. I've never seen it in a negative way. Like I haven't seen people complaining about the fiber maxing piece. I don't think I'm on that side of TikTok, but I'm sure it wouldn't take long to get there once you go searching for it.
Yeah. I mean, if you're in tune with your body, there's checks and balances that you have where you're like having awareness of, oh, I'm feeling full, maybe I should stop. But not everybody does have that same kind of internal check system of like, how am I feeling? Sometimes we can get kind of disconnected from how we're feeling. And I think that's where you can go to these extremes and not really take a step back and see where you're at.
Yep, for sure. I feel like I see that in athletes too. It's really easy to kind of, if you say that fiber is good, then that means a lot of it is really good. That can be kind of the mentality, and a lot of us can fall into that trap too. And I feel like this would be an easy one to kind of overdo and then be like, well, it can't be harmful to but too much of any good thing is still not great, and we want to be mindful of how much is coming in and some of the side effects that can happen with it. But yeah.
Yeah, I've heard you say that before about athletes, how there's just this internal compass, especially like at higher levels, like to get to a higher level as an athlete, it requires to do more than the average. It requires you to push yourself beyond your comfort level. And I think there is a tendency to sort of take that mentality into all other areas of life, which in some ways is a good thing. And then when it comes to food, definitely going to extremes can have its real downsides.
Well, and you get really comfortable sitting in discomfort. You that build up that muscle, and the more elite that you get in sport, you're used to sitting in pain and discomfort and having to push through that. And so same idea here, yeah, it might be a little uncomfortable, but a lot is better than a little. And so that can be kind of challenging to work through with someone. But yeah, I think with most things, Goldilocks principle is usually best, like finding an appropriate amount, not too much, not too little.
Yeah, kind of like finding the thing that's doing, what's the 80-20 principle too? There's 20% of the things that you're doing that yield 80% of results and vice versa. So you want to focus on, which I think is the same thing as Goldilocks, I guess, which is focusing in on those key things that are most important, that move the needle versus kind of doing it all.
Yeah.
Which I think, don't you kind of think everybody with IBD too, it's like we kind of, when you start searching for answers with IBD, at least I see with a lot of people that reaching out that sometimes we're like trying it all, like every diet, every single supplement, because you feel so desperate sometimes to find some kind of answer that you can end up doing it all.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't think I've run into any of our patients wanting to do it, to be honest. I feel like maybe a lot of our patients are on the other side of it, of like a little bit scared of fiber. So I wonder if it's as common in the IBD community as it is in other gut areas, because I think we do yield on the side of fiber fears rather than wanting to be all excited about it.
For sure. But I could see someone, if you were, in remission, you were feeling pretty good, and realize like, oh, maybe I'm getting close to my fiber goal or needs every day, but probably not quite meeting that mark. And then come across this trend, and you maybe are familiar with our content that fiber is good. And then you layer that on and then kind of go 0 to 100 in a week, and then there's going to be you're going to feel the effects of that for sure.
Yeah. And I think the timing of it, like you're saying too, is so important. Like how quickly you jump will dictate the amount of symptoms and how adjusted your body is to it. And that definitely does make a big difference.
Yeah, I don't know the trend super well, but whenever we had first started talking about it, I was like, are they talking about hydration as well? Anytime we increase fiber, we have to increase fluids.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's true. And I think a lot of people, if we're looking at general population, a lot of people tend to be more on the dehydrated side, or especially if you're having like lots of bowel movements where your hydration's already on the low end, or maybe your electrolytes are low, then it definitely does pose some challenges of it actually, causing more constipation or backup type symptoms.
Yeah.
With fibermaxing, is that something we would recommend to our patients or anyone else with IBD? I say yes, but there's a stipulation, right? Like, okay, we want to, I guess first, like, what is the definition of fibermaxing?
It could literally be meeting the 25 to 35 grams. Like that could be, I saw that there was even a world in which it's just meeting your need.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, we do want to fibermax. I love how catchy that is. Maybe that intrigues some people to get started on their fiber journey. But with anything, if you've watched our channel, you've heard us say we always want to go low and slow with fiber. And like Krista said, hydration is a really important piece. So if you are only drinking, 16 ounces of water and you're getting 30 grams of fiber in your day, I wouldn't be surprised if you're constipated or bloated. So we want to make sure our water or hydration is on point. And then let's slowly start to add in some fibrous foods. And maybe you start with soluble fibers first, especially if you're
Yep.
new to your gut health journey, and really adjust the particle size of these foods, cooking, blending, pureeing, sauteing, to train that gut to get used to fiber over time. So
Yeah.
yay for fibermaxing in a slow way.
Yes. And it literally, like, I was talking to a patient recently, it's like low and slow literally can be 2 tablespoons of a new fibrous food. Like, that's great. We can stay there for a few days and see how we do, and then we can start to increase. And I think too, with this conversation, it's important to kind of think about the variety piece of it as well, you know? So yeah, we're recommending fibrous foods first, you know, over supplementation, and then secondarily adding variety within those options. So that creates a resilient gut.
Okay, part of me is wondering when I heard about it, I immediately thought, how much of this is like a sensationalized headline that is, how much of this is driven by that and it's pushing people into these extremes and feeling like they have to be extreme, and maybe the origins of it was just meeting your needs. So we're going a little bit beyond time. I do kind of wonder that, because I think so many things, if we look at nutrition trends, a lot of it is very much at its core, it might be pretty neutral. But then to get people to be interested in anything like a catchy story or blog or video, there's always headlines that are hooks, and that sensationalization of it then takes it to this whole other place that wasn't the original intention. And so then you have all these extremes, people living in all these like, well, let me start tomorrow and do 50 grams. So I always wonder how much of it actually goes back to just sensationalized media and how we love to make it so black and white with nutrition.
Yeah, it's a good point. And honestly, I don't know, maybe I'm just ignorant, but I feel like the likelihood is that the majority of people who are kind of catching on to the trend are probably just meeting their need now. And that's probably a really good thing.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think with food, going beyond, like if you're starting like most people under the needs and then going to just average or slightly above average, I think it's pretty hard to go much further than that. I think I've heard people be very concerned about the fibermaxing side, but it's actually kind of hard to go 50 grams and still feel okay and not uncomfortable. So
yeah,
I guess I'm less worried about it than a lot of the other stuff I've seen.
Yeah.
Do you think that's because we mainly deal with the IBD population who is scared to go that way?
Probably a lot to do with that. Yeah, my own bias. I mean, I do still see some like GI patients that are non-IBD from like 10 years ago. Yeah, I don't see that many people going to extremes. Maybe a handful. Even just being in GI, like even if we're just looking at the GI population, even that has its own biases about it as to, because you're already dealing with gut issues. So it's like you're gonna be more sensitive overall to any sort of dietary interventions.
Sure.
Yeah. So I mean, overall, I'm not worried about people going hard with it, but I think the timing has so much to do with it too. How you're going about it, and if we just slow down and be a little patient with ourselves and our bodies, I think that is the antidote to all of this stuff, is just slowing down and being patient and trying to be a little bit more in tune with how we're feeling. I think that goes a long ways.
It's a good point, because for anyone who's like, oh my gosh, I wish I could just tolerate like 10 grams or whatever, you feel like you can't tolerate anything. It's not going to stay that way forever. If you're not tolerating it now, it doesn't mean that you won't tolerate it in 6 months or a year or whatever the case may be. Or you can always keep trying in slow, moderate amounts and see if you can do to increase tolerance over time.
Yeah, it's really good advice. I mean, overall, I'm not mad about it. It's not carnivore diet, so like, I'm pretty neutral on it, but yeah.
Actually, you know where I think this came from too? Just when you said carnivore, it made me think, I think fibermaxing, it came from the fact that we know colon cancer rates are rising.
Yeah.
Right? So we know that. We know North Americans do not even come close to meeting their fiber recommendations. And that maybe those two things can go together potentially, right? There's a good chance. Yeah. One of many reasons why colon cancer rates could be on the rise. So I think that's a big piece of why this trend has come to fruition as well.
Yeah, good point.
I almost wonder if it's like, with diet trends, I think you see kind of like swinging back and forth between black and white, like of like, we're going to go keto. Okay, now we're going to go like heavy carbohydrate. You just see all of that. And I wonder if everybody was like, I'm going to do a carnivore. And now we're like, okay, actually fiber has value. So let's go Fibermax, I feel like it's natural swing that just happens with trends in general. But I think in this case, there's a lot of value to putting more attention on an area that doesn't get any. And I think with the age of colon cancer being on the rise and it happening younger and younger, it is something we do need to think about. I think the only caveat is just going low and slow and being aware of your body. And I think those things are important with any kind of change. All right. Well, this was a good conversation, and I hope that you will consider the fiber component as a part of your dietary journey and figure out ways that you can support yourself and reduce your risk overall. And if you need help with that, feel free to reach out. We are here for you. All right. Take care, everybody.